making them feel that that's okay and it's part of the process and that you're there to help is also very securing for the client. They like to feel that they have that choice.
Welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a 7-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sales Made Simple podcast. It's your host, Joshua Gillow, and Frank Bourque is back with me this week. And we are going to focus on how to double your outdoor living sales in half the time with these 3 simple sales shortcuts. Frank, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Joshua.
Absolutely. I loved our conversation last week. And if you didn't hear it, I say go back to your platform of choice. It was all about the real reason why you're losing over 50% of your outdoor living projects to competitors and how to fix that now. So if you didn't hear that, go back and listen. But this week, we're going to focus on doubling your outdoor living sales in half the time with a few simple shortcuts. So the takeaways today, what we're going to focus on is strategies for optimizing time and sales, like prioritizing high-value activities, high-value clients, clients that have the ability to say yes and how to figure that out, setting clear daily goals in your sales system so that you know, okay, if you're just out there swinging for the fences every single day and really have no idea of what you need each month, what your sales team is focused on, if they have no targets going on, how do they know what they're shooting at? Like they're just going out there and hoping like crazy. You don't want that. Also, tools to manage client communication and follow-ups efficiently. So those are the things we're going to focus on today. So Frank, I'm glad you're here to help us unpack this. And I know that you do a lot of this in your coaching, consulting, and speaking career. So I can't wait to hear what you got to say about this.
It's great topic. I think it's all in line with helping people plan better for the next season ahead and even to finish strong in the fall, right?
Absolutely. So what are some high value sales activities that companies in our industry should be focusing on?
Yeah, well, I can start with the one that would be probably the most obvious, but I think that we've all skipped on sometimes when we're very busy. We find something else to do. It's prospecting, right? Really actively seeking out new clients through, it could be targeted outreach, it could be networking, referrals. It's actually doing the work. And I think from, many business owners I've known, they always prefer when the leads come to them without putting in the effort. But there's this whole side to business that if you take the initiative, great things happen, because the best partnership, whether it's prospecting clients or prospecting partnerships that can bring you more clients. I find, those are very high value because you could find one person that gives you multiple jobs, or you can find the type of client that really fits your business. So prospecting is a huge one. Client engagement is a high value activity. So having last week we spoke about maintaining the trust with the client, providing updates, checking in, right? Just having a check-in with people keeps that trust. It keeps that communication open, and then so regular touch points along the way, whether it's in person, on video, on the phone. Then the whole proposal development. If you spend time crafting something and you do it well, there's no better way to always look at how you can make it better. Speed does really help when it comes to selling. If you can provide a solution in less time, it makes you stand out from someone who is not as efficient and takes a long time doing it and who procrastinates sitting down and taking care of it. So just really being serious about your proposal process. Then the whole following up. If you do provide a proposal, hey, if you invested 3 hours, 4 hours, maybe even 10 hours into a proposal, it's worth checking up. And it's not about ego. Sometimes we don't want to check in. We're like, well, no, I'm better than that because, if they want my work, they'll call me back. But sometimes it's not about that. Sometimes they might have a question. Maybe they're stuck. Maybe they're doubting the amount that they need to spend. Maybe they don't understand the amount. And by, checking in, a quick follow-up, you can answer those questions sometimes and just unblock and break through that moment that keeps the client from wanting to invest. And you know what? I think 2025 is going to be a lot about that. Is the buying trends are changing. It's not the economy that's crashing, but we definitely see a slowdown or a different buying trend, and understanding that these high value activities we're talking about, like following up, is going to be even more important because people are holding back longer. They're taking longer to make their decisions, and making them feel that that's okay and it's part of the process and that you're there to help is also very securing for the client. They like to feel that they have that choice. And then client consultations, taking the time to listen to their needs and to understand the pain points along the process for them, and to try to address that along the process. And that's the rapport building. That's the trust. That's the part of the client that's going to make them refer you to maybe 1, 2, 3, 5 people or 10 in the future. Mm-hmm. Or if they don't feel that, and sometimes we neglect it because lack of time. But by neglected that, the client might not be inclined to refer us in the future. They might be happy with the job, but they might say, oh, that person doesn't have enough time. Maybe they are too busy. I won't refer them more work. So I would identify these as really the highest value activities that pops in my mind right now. I'm sure there's a ton, but these are crucial, I think, for any business, but especially the year ahead, given the buying trends and some of the things changing in the industry.
Absolutely. And when you say, buying trends, what are some of the buying trends that you're seeing shifting here in 2025 for our listeners out there? They're like, okay, great. You're kind of talking around it, Frank. So what exactly are you talking about? What should we be expecting? How can we prepare? Because you're exactly right. The customer experience is the cornerstone of a great, successful company, no matter what you're doing now. That's a baseline for customers. They expect that. Ever since when you go to Zappos and you can actually buy, years ago when it first came out, it was the hottest thing. Like, think about it. An online retailer is going to sell women shoes. They can't try them on. They don't know if they fit. They don't know what they look like. And then they're going to offer free shipping. Right. And you sit back and it's like, Tony Shea, the guy that came up with this, him and his team, is like, are you crazy? like, what are you? And crazy thing is, it worked. They bought them. The women would buy these shoes, tons of them. And they would be like, well, maybe one day I'll fit into it. It's cute. Maybe I'll wear it sometime. And they bought a lot more than they would normally buy at a regular brick and mortar store. And it worked for that reason. But my point is, they were preparing our market for what's coming next. They saw where the hockey puck was going, not where it is. Right. So that's why I'd love to see what your thoughts are right now on what 2025 and beyond looks like and how it's different than what we're doing now.
Yep. So what we're seeing right now is, especially in the hardscape industry, you might provide a quote and, you provide all the options and people are saying, hey, listen, we love the project, but we're going to go with only 70% of it. Or so their willingness to spend a large amount of money is more questioned now than in the last 4 years. I mean, if we're comparing now and the next year ahead compared to the last 4 years, they had the feeling that if they don't book you now, they won't be able to book you in for another year because it was such a demand. People were at home and so now people are traveling more, people are spending their money elsewhere. Let's face it, people are in debt again. So if they were out of debt because they were able to save more money, they had more savings. Now we're back to where we were in like 2018, 2019, where people are more realistic. I think they're looking at, we have so much money, we'd like to do, different things. And so they pick different options. They look to compare the value. So they want to know, okay, if I'm going to be putting in $100,000 with contractor A or contractor B, what kind of value am I getting for that amount? So if you have, like we talked about last week, if you're high pressure and that's all kind of an option, and you're not as open to looking at the client saying, hey, we love that extra 200 square feet that you're offering, but it doesn't bring more value to us. What would bring more value to us is maybe adding some landscape lighting and maybe adding something where the kids can play in this, it's basically, it comes back to their needs, and really making sure that we really pay attention, asking questions like, what part of this project is a must? If you're going to do one part of the project, what is it? And it's understanding that if ever you need to break down the project in different phases, that you know exactly where you would start, what you would suggest, and what the options that you would present to the client, so that they can see that you understand their needs, you understand their order of priority for how they want to spend their money for the project. And if you understand that, you can have conversations that make sense. You can feel like you're always going in the same direction as them, because you're addressing it in the same way they see it. So when the buying trends change like this, it's important to understand what they value the most about the project, and which part is number 1, 2, 3, 4, so that if you need to cut anywhere or divide it in different, then you can do that.
You're exactly right. And that's something that we teach in our sales courses, is this concept of hot button. If a client brings you a list of 17 different things that they want in their backyard, listeners, that not all 17 are as important as one of them or two of them or three of them, right? There's must-haves and there's like-to-haves. But if we're looking at all of them as must-haves and you put them all in the design and you blow the budget way out of the water, you have nowhere to go when you come back with them. Well, Mrs. Jones, you asked for all 17 things. I put them in the design. I did exactly what you asked.
Yep.
But did you take the time to actually ask the questions? What is your highest priority? Of these top 3, what is your highest priority? Got it. Okay, great. We know it's the patio. So we know that the core of their want, their need, their desire is to get that patio completed. Everything else is gravy. That's all extra pieces that they can skin out for a couple of years. To your point, if people are going to be more budget conscious, and I absolutely agree, they're going to be more budget conscious. Back in 1819, like you mentioned, interest rates weren't at 6-7%. They were at 3%, right? Money was cheap. There was equity in homes. They could rob out of them and grab from the piggy bank, and they could buy like crazy. It was the good times. It's not like that now. It's a different world. So people are being responsible. They have higher debt after going through COVID. They have a higher debt. So there's a lot of moving parts that we didn't have back then. Now we do. So they're going to try to phase projects over time. That's at least our vision as well. So if that's the case, we got to add as much value in phase 1 to get to the direct core of what they're trying to accomplish. And all the other ancillary pieces, those other 16 things, are nice to haves that we can add over time. They can build on this over time. Instead of saying it's all or nothing, that old, like we talked about last week, it's like, you have to buy the whole thing or nothing. Or to your point earlier about the 200 square extra feet on the patio in your example, right? Why do you even have them in there? If you're a good designer and if you're at all decent about asking questions, that 200 square foot should never have been there in the beginning, because it's not necessary. It's not about making that design look really, really cool, because that's all about you. If you're a designer and it's all about it has to look good. Don't get me wrong, Frank. But if you're out there and you're listening and you're a designer, you're like, it has to look a certain way, and that 200 square foot is going to make it look that way. The customer is going to ask questions now in the future, like, do I really need that 200 square foot? I don't sunbathe. Why do I have a sunbathing area over there? Oh, because everybody wants one. I don't want one. You didn't listen to me.
Yeah.
It's not important to me, not important to my family. We'll never use it. But maybe a barbecue would be.
Yeah.
I don't know. We have to ask questions to find that out. Every client is different.
Absolutely.
So I love that you're already starting to focus on the fact that people are going to skin these projects back. And if they do, it doesn't mean they don't want to do the whole thing. It just means they might not be able to pull the trigger on everything now. But knowing what that looks like can help you guide that client.
Yeah. And it's also understanding, if you give out a bid for $100,000, I tell my clients in 2025, it might be to your advantage to say, okay, I'm already aware that most clients are aiming more for 80, although I know it's going to really cost 100, but they don't know the cost. So like you said, identifying those high priority items becomes so important, because as soon as they say, well, it's a bit high for us, no problem, Mrs. Jones. You mentioned that the patio is very important, that retaining wall you need, and you really want a space that it's functional with an outdoor kitchen. We can do that. And, these two options that you mentioned about the pergola, it wasn't high priority. If we take that out, we're pretty much on budget, or does it fit something, we'd be closer to the price where you mentioned you were more comfortable with. So it's just like being ready for those questions and almost expecting that, that people will want to have a discussion around the price It's not because you're too expensive. It's not because they can't afford it. It's just because that's what they feel comfortable with at this time.
Yep. And they got to make good, responsible decisions. So that's good stuff. So when it comes down to, and we've talked about some strategies for optimizing time and sales, like making sure that you're focusing on those high value activities, everything client facing, experience facing. Yeah. Those are going to be what makes the biggest change right now in 2020, end of 24 on into 25 and beyond. That's not going to change. We're not going back to used car salesman mode. That'll never happen again, at least not in our lifetime.
No.
So we're going to have to think about out there, listeners, is how are you going to make sure that your client experience is your number one focus? Obviously profitability too, but number one focus beyond that is going to be profitability, and then taking the time as your sales team or yourself to make sure you're managing all that client facing experience for the client, to make sure they're getting that great experience. What they don't want is you to tell them it's going to take 6 weeks to do a design and disappear for 6 weeks. What they want is updates every week or two. Hey guys, working on your design. You're next up. Hey, I'm excited for this. Those little touch points like that builds momentum. It builds excitement. It builds trust. Wow. It builds all like, wow, okay, I didn't ask for it, and they're already telling me what's coming next. So that's the kind of stuff you could be spending your time on when you're not out chasing 10 leads, but 5 good ones. Then you'll have more time to do all of that stuff. So what are setting some clear daily goals or weekly or monthly goals for the sales? How do you approach that? And what are some good points for our listeners to be thinking about in their business for that?
Mm-hmm. So, sales goals is, I always start by looking, okay, what have you been able to do in the past, right? So you almost need to set a benchmark to what you have been doing. And if you've been doing a lot of things like, not wasting your time or improving your process, every year I try to look with companies, what can we improve so that next year you can do most of it, you can do more of it, and you can keep scaling in the way that you want to scale, whether it's just more profitable, whether it's in size, so goals for me start with identifying, okay, what have we done? Has that been profitable? If not, let's fix the problem right now, and let's set new goals so every week, is it the number of people I'm going to be reaching out to? Is it how many follow-ups I'm going to be doing? It's not just about how much revenue we're going to bring in, because we know that you can have a large revenue and no profit, but it's like, hey, how can we meet that objective, that revenue that we had, and how can we make it so that it's profitable? Great. And then also looking at, after you've done those touch points and looked at it, and now it's like, okay, are we measuring it the right way? Are we measuring it? Are we keeping track of the amount of time it's taking? But also, since we're talking about goals, is let's say you have a number of touch points, and we're talking about high level value activities and low value, and sometimes we spend too much time on the low value ones. If we get caught up in the weeds and really, the clients that don't deserve our time or that's not a good fit for us, it's also important to know that as part of planning your goals is knowing who is your ideal client, right? To be able to target that person, that's going to help you to get there faster and better. So as part of goal setting, I think it's important to know, what are you looking for? And then you'll be able to see it as it presents itself, and you won't be scared of those or spending a lot of time where it's really needed. So touch points are important. That could be one measure, but as long as those touch points you're having are a good fit, it's even better.
Absolutely. And I read a quote once that it ties it so perfectly when it comes to goals. Like, we're not going to get in this deeply, but the idea is that when you set a goal, you probably hit it one time, right? But if you set up systems, you can hit them over and over and over, the same goals over and over again, right? So systems are the way that happens, not once. Because if you're thinking, I want to hit $1 million this year, listeners, that's my target. That's great. You're going to do everything you can, whether you're profitable or not, to hit that $1 million. You may hit that $1 million, but then how are you going to do it again next year if you've built no systems to get there, right? If you want the repeatability of all of that, the systems are what create that framework and that foundation to get you there over and over and over again. Easier each year.
Yeah. And you're right. Systems for getting the leads, system for getting the right leads, system for processing those leads, systems for setting up reminders to have those touch points with those leads. And absolutely, right. So
That's awesome. You mentioned earlier about follow up with, if you have a lot of proposals out, you mentioned 2025, you're going to have to chase them a little bit more. How do you do that without sounding desperate? Like, what is your strategy, or how do you coach people on that follow up? How often should you do it? What should it sound like? Like, give us some framework around that, so it doesn't look like we're a bunch of desperate, contractors out there being like, come on, are you going to buy this week? Are you going to buy next week? Can I call you in 3 weeks so you'll buy then? Like, nobody wants that. It feels slimy as hell. Nobody likes doing it. So what are some thoughts you have around that?
Well, when I'm looking at, again, coming back to my past experiences, having to train salespeople, sometimes the best way to figure out the best solution is to be there, to try it. And I've noticed when you tell people that you're, or you ask them, what's the best way to communicate with you? Is it texting? Is it calling? Do you prefer emails? So we'll send you the quote. And some people will say, I would really appreciate if we could review that quote together. No problem. Let's do it. So then, you get all those answers. Some people say, well, send me the quote by email. And, when I ask them, okay, you prefer community, I'll send you a follow-up just to make sure if you have any questions. And I would usually mention it to them. So it's expected. It's like, hey, we always follow up to make sure. But especially if you're not going to have all those conversations face to face, it's super important to let them know how you follow up and to know their best way of communication. Now you hear people more than ever. Just send me a quick text. We'll get on a call and we can discuss those questions. No problem. Yeah. And so when you're communicating with them, and it's like love language for communicating with the clients. If you communicate in the way that they prefer, they will just feel like you get them. Right. And I think that's key for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And you're so right. Listeners, if you're out there texting people because that's easiest for you, but this client prefers email or a phone call, you're missing it, because they're not going to answer that text. Or if you're emailing them everything and it's going to their spam folder and you don't know, you're not texting them, you're not calling them. And then you're like, why aren't they getting back to me? And then you reach out to them as a follow-up, like, hey, are you ready to move forward? Or whatever you might say, right? And next thing you know, it's like, well, we never got a quote. We actually went with somebody else because I never got a quote. Like, what do you mean? I emailed it to you 2 weeks ago. Well, I don't check my inbox that often. So listeners, at least 2 points of contact with each client and pick their preferences. Text tends to be the most easily accessible for everybody, but it's not for everybody. Some people like a phone call. Some are just good old fashioned people that want that kind of connection, and they just want your time that way because they know you're now bought into their project more. So meet them where they are. Don't try to force them on your way.
Well said. Well said. Yeah. And I've noticed clients, or a lot of my clients mention landscape companies that they do both. They'll tell their clients, we're going to send you an email, but we'll text you at the same time to let you know we've sent you an email. Right. Yeah. So, but like you said, pick what works for the client, but make sure you check. Absolutely.
Yeah. Make sure they're getting what what you're supposed to be sending. That's good stuff. So last point here I want to hit on, and what are some of the best tools to manage client communication?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of ways to automate that now, whether it's a business management system, well, all the communications are in there, like a CRM, a customer relationship management system where you can keep track of conversations. Oh, I remember talking about this with Mrs. Jones, right? We've touched on all these things. I've shared the estimate. Then you can put some notes in there. Did she say I had to call back or that I would call back? When you're able to leave some notes and have it all in one place, you can keep track of it. Now we use AI to do some of these things, and we'll talk about it probably in some other episode, but there's a lot of things that can be automated, like a little follow-up, let's say, that's set for 1 week from now. So if you're telling your clients, hey, we're going to follow up with you just to make sure everything's good, AI can help you with that, and we use a system for our clients that automates that. And so having a place where you can keep all the information, I think it's the best way to just not have to. If you have it all in your head, then it's going to be hard. And if you're able to keep all the information somewhere where not only you can have access to the information, but your team, then you're allowing other people to be able to take on these responsibilities when you need them to step up. So, big benefits to automation and using technology as software. And I'm sure there's a lot of solutions out there. But I know there is, but depending on what people need, there's robust software, just like there's some that are more entry level. So I think
Yeah.
doing your
Do you have a
research.
couple of exampple that you run into or see your clients using or that you recommend for the listeners that are maybe
Absolutely.
don't have a CRM that are still kind of working out of their glove box with a tablet? I remember those
Yeah.
days, right? Everything was on a tablet. As soon as that project was done, it was curled up, thrown in the garbage, and the next one is in there. Didn't keep any records of anything, but that's not the way it works now.
Yeah, I mean, there's great CRMs. I use Atom AI for CRM and keeping all my marketing in one place and all my conversations from texting to emails to my leads. Everything's in one place. We can set up all kinds of automations for that. Then there's systems like LMN, Landscape Management Network. It has one. Then you have Synced Up has solutions for keeping track of different things. Some are more robust in terms of CRM and keeping all the information in one place, but there's Aspire also. There's a very for companies that are, I would say, more towards the large type companies. But there's a lot of options out there. It doesn't have to be very complicated, and it can be as simple as something like Jobber or others that are known for just being able to have some quick information. But
it's important to keep that all consolidated because the last thing you want to do, I've always been a box guy, if you will. Like I wanted to keep everything, all the information for Mrs. Jones in one box so that when I need to go and find that information, it all has tabs and it's all in her box. It's not spread across the whole office, half in my truck, some in the garbage can, some my dog ate. Like that's how it used to be. And it drove me crazy. And I'm like, there has to be a better way to do this. And now with technology, everything can live in one place. It's all cloud-based. You can touch it. Your whole team can, they can add, they can subtract. Everything's great that way. And I know that might sound daunting to some listeners, but the reality is imagine having one box where everything Mrs. Jones ever did, said, or wanted is in that box. And you just have to go back, you and your team, and you can see all that stuff. So the idea of putting a CRM in place, and I know there's, like different ones like you mentioned. I've hear some guys using Builder Trend out there that are like, hey, it's got a great CRM there as well. And like find something that works for you. Try them all out. Take some time, take a couple of days and try them out and see what's most intuitive for you. And what do you truly need? Do you need all the back end features too? Or do you just need a CRM that's going to keep the information in one box for you so that Mrs. Jones's stuff doesn't get lost? And when she said something, well, you didn't, where's that sticky note that was next to me on my desk that I threw out when I did garbage last week? You know what I mean? It's like, oh crap, if it all lived there, then everything would be easily accessible. So, having a CRM in place is not something you can get away with after, or not have in place. You can't get away with that after, we say about 500,000 in revenue. Like you can probably keep it going under there out of the glove box. But once you get about 500K and above, and especially over the $1 million mark, if you plan on scaling in any way, shape or form, you better have a central location for all of this information. It's not going to work out of the glove box anymore. Yeah, absolutely true. So Frank, I appreciate you coming back on. Guys, what we focused on this week was strategies for optimizing time and sales and prioritizing those high value activities. We talked about making sure you're focusing your attention or the salesperson's attention on that client-facing side, your customer experience, making sure they get more than they're expecting. That is a great investment of the time of the salespeople. You can't be doing that if you're chasing 10 leads and getting 2 or 3 like most in the industry are. You've got to get your top 5 and you've got to be working on them with more time and slowing the whole entire process down. Next was setting some clear goals as you're going through. If you've got to sell 12 projects a year because you just sell big projects, it's all you need to hit your nut for the year. Great. Every month, how you bringing that one and how you getting the next one going? Let's put a plan and a sales strategy together for that. And then the sales team is now accountable to that goal. 1 per month, 2 per month, 10 per month, whatever it might be for you. And then you work. If it's working, great. And if it's not working, you need to go back and say, all right, team, what's not working? What are you hearing in the market? What do we need to adjust? If everyone just got their head in the sand and they just keep hitting the wall at new leads, or they just put more money into the Facebook marketing machine and they keep getting more leads in, but those leads are crap. No one could sell them. And next thing you know, like, well, they're busy. Yeah, they're busy wasting time. That's the thing. They're busy wasting time. Busy doesn't equal good. Busy doesn't equal success. It just means you're wasting time doing things that are not producing any value. So how are you becoming much more focused so that time could be used most efficiently? And then we talked about CRMs and ways to manage customer information and follow-ups as well. So Frank, any parting thoughts here as we wrap up?
Yeah, I think if everyone takes a step back to look at, how they've done with their sales process in the last year, and the best thing they can do after listening to an episode like this would be just take a few notes. What popped in your mind at first? It could be like, that would be something I'd love to do. Oh, geez, that's something I've done that I maybe should stop doing, or maybe that could be helpful. Just quick notes like that. It's amazing how journaling, and it doesn't have to be very deep, but just keeping track of these little thoughts that pop into your mind, usually they're the best things to implement, because right away when you hear them how much value they could bring to you. So
absolutely. Yeah, jot them down, take your notes, and just start something. I challenge the listeners out there just to take one nugget that you got from this episode and say, okay, I want to look deeper now. I'm going to go Google that. I'm going to go to ChatGPT. I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to start the process. Just become aware. You might be surprised how far you get with that. So guys, thank you for tuning in. Next week, we're going to focus on why ignoring these simple outdoor living sales KPIs are costing you a fortune. So guys, see you next week.